it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the Fans Forum, and delighted to welcome George, Darren, Kevin and Barry, a couple more on their way to the panel tonight. And as always, plenty to talk about with Newcastle United coming off the back of the wonderful trip to the USA, 10-day trip. Kevin, of course, and I did a show earlier in the week with regards to that. And it's been a fantastic time, good team bonding exercise and some positive results for Newcastle. And I guess, we've done a lot about that. So I wanted to change it around a little bit tonight. And off the back of those friendlies, George, I want to ask, would you be happy if you started the season with last year's back four and goalkeeper?
Last year's back four and goalkeeper, yes. Yes, I mean, it would be difficult to criticise a defence that was the best in the country. It was as good as the champions were. I mean, yes, there were times when people were critical of Dan Burn at left back and all the rest of it, saying we're getting peppered there. But the real answer is that they did very well. As I say, they were best in the country, including the champions. They were as good as Manchester City were. I'm not sure how you change all of that. We want to be better if we can, but no, I'd be delighted to start with that lot. And they displayed on the field a togetherness which was uncanny sometimes, sticking up for one another. And at the end of the match, when the result went our way, that five were together straight away, goalkeeper and centre-backs, etc., almost congratulating each other. And really, I'd be happy to start with last season's back four and goalkeeper, without any doubt.
Okay, Darren, same question to you, mate, because I'm seeing a lot on social media, people saying the back four looks slow. They're not really taking into consideration, don't think. This is pre-season. And by Eddie Howe's own admission in his press conferences this week, he said, we're playing in 85-degree heat. He said the lads have trained a hell of a lot more than they would normally train for a Premier League game. Tiredness is going to come into play. And that's why he played so many different, permutations, different squad formations, different players. Some players played one game, didn't play it all in the next. So, that's what pre-season's all around. But if we didn't sign another left back or right back or centre half, would you be happy, Darren, going into the first half of the season without any new acquisitions?
Well, you like to say, George said your back four was the best, second best in the league last season. But if you look at the new season now, when you watched Villa, they got pace. And I like the players still getting match fit and all that, but a couple of times against Chelsea, they were getting past our centre half with pace and left back when Dan Burns playing. So it's not a worry, but if the players got a pace to go past them, it's got to be too easy. Like, I think we're definitely another left back, because I don't think we need another kind of half, because I know they've got the cells there, but just for cover, I think we need a centre half and then the left back, but definitely.
Right, okay, Barry, it's the same question to you. This back four were superb last year. They don't suddenly become a bad back four overnight, I hasten to add. Dan Burn was probably one of our best players last year. Yes, a couple of games he probably got done for pace, but he's he is up there with one of the best left backs in the Premier League last year. And I think we've all accepted, Eddie Howe has accepted certainly that he's a left back. He's not a centre half to him. He's gone on record saying that. So I personally think we will have another defender in. I mean, we are being linked with Tyne, we are being linked with Livramento, we're being linked with one or two others, and as your 204 strong list shows. But from our point of view, would you be happy? Would you be happy, Barry, going into the season with the same back four without any additions?
I think you've got to look at it. I mean, obviously we've got Target, who wasn't there for the majority of the season, so he's an additional as it stands at the minute. he's looking fit. He's looking ready to go. I mean, I've said it before on here. I'm a huge Dan Burn fan. I think what he makes, he loses in speed. Sometimes he makes up for in passion. Plus, he seems to stick a leg out that nobody should be able to reach. Only somebody of his height can actually reach the ball and slide across and take it away from people. So I think he makes up for things in other ways. I mean, for me, the stories that are going around at the minute about Ashby going out on loan suggests that they've got something in the pipeline, because I wouldn't imagine him to be going and leaving Trippier as the only really. I know we've got Manquillo and Kraft, but I still think they're not that much in Eddie Howe's plans. So I think we'll still get somebody. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the defense. I think the defense was sound last year. They can only improve together, and I think it's one of those things that you might get beaten for pace, but I think as a team and the attitude they've got is still tremendous. So I'm not too concerned, to be honest.
Okay, Kev, you've had the luxury of watching the team live, not only at a training session, but also in a live game this year, and brilliant stuff from you as well this week when you actually, you basically, you watched the training session and you came up with a team, which unfortunately we didn't put on the show, but you did text us and said I cut you off on your prime, and you were right, you were spot on. But getting away from that, the back four, mate, it's it was superb last season. That was the foundations that our success was built on. Are you happy going into the season with those guys and with the backup that we've got for the time being, if it means that we don't sign anybody to say the next window?
I am. I'm a little bit worried about the Shaw injury, though, because that seems to be a little bit more of a concern than originally thought. But outside of that, if he was fully fit, yes, absolutely. But with the Shaw injury, and if we play three, because Dan Burn he didn't know if he was a left back or a left centre half. He was lost, genuinely lost, and exposed him. So I would be happy with the one what we went with last year, because again, like George said and others, there was a unity, there was a togetherness. It was like a family within the family, if you say, you know what I mean, with goalkeeper and back four. So basically, yeah, I would, but I think we're looking within the market to find another right centre back, one who can possibly play a right back, similar like they were Dan Burn, but on the other side, essentially, and the left back. So if we get those in, then yeah, I'll be happy where we are moving forward. But again, the Fabian Shaw injury was a little concerning, because again, I completely agree with Darren. I was behind the goal where Chelsea scored on Wednesday night, and the amount of times they got in down the sides of us was a bit of a worry, and then that made us drop off, because I was a little bit critical of Lewis Miley not getting close to Endo Fernandez in the game, and I thought he could have done that, but that was just from my vantage point, and that's what I saw. But anyway, yeah, so I'll be happy if we don't bring anybody in. I think there'll be a bit of a disappointment, but if that's what we got, that's what we got. It worked well last year, and I think it'll work well again this coming season.
I showed you a photograph with Jimmy on the Amigos show, mate, because there was also one from Mark Byers, but I have got a couple of others. Great day out for you, Kev. It must have been absolutely fantastic. I know you've probably done your fair share of backwards traveling as well to get to these places, but fantastic, great of you to share these photos. But how good was the atmosphere, mate? And what a celebration from Miggy. Going back to his old celebration, I guess, in that game.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we chucked it together in about 2 or 3 days. Me and my wife, we just decided there was other events going on which we couldn't really make with kids and or long days and all that, and kickoff times and stuff like that. So we just decided, hey, we've got a tent, we've got a couple of coolers, and just invite everybody who can't get to those events. Just come down and hang out for a little bit. So we're there for about 3.5 hours. But yeah, it was great to see Jimmy. You asked him if he wanted anything. He said, yeah, hey, you got anything? Just gives a beer will do. And so I'd seen him stopping on a Modelo or whatever it was. But yeah, it was fantastic to see people from all over pretty much the world near enough. It was fantastic just to be involved and just to put something together. But, I thought I'd bring a bit of America into some non-Americans, Geordies flying over and seeing what this actually does, Quite a bit of an interesting thing after the game. Our car wouldn't start. So we were there till like whatever, like 11:30 at night or whatever it was. So that was fun. And we
The
were
old car wouldn't start thing. Did you miss the slide as well, did she?
No, because we were trying to play some music and I was fighting against the Home Depot backyard, what it's called, and they had a big sound system blaring music out. So we tried to get, and it just wouldn't start. And a Chelsea fan saved us, thankfully, so never mind. But yeah, it was just fantastic, mate. Yeah.
And amazing as well. Just how good was it for you after all this time, mate, living across there to see Newcastle play in the flesh?
Yeah, it was great. It was more not about me. It was more about my kids seeing them live for the first time. You know, my stepdaughters. That was the first time ever in a stadium, ever seen them like pro sports live. My oldest son's been to St James as a ball boy, but hit that to like a distant memory to him being a 13-year-old. He wanted to see them live. My other two boys were all about the Miggy thing, and it was just written in the stars for him to score. And but yeah, and it was just disappointing from some fans' reactions. The atmosphere wasn't brilliant, but the way the ticketing worked, I'm not getting involved in that, but how it worked was there was a lot of Chelsea and other clubs around us. Then if you've seen in the New York game, the New Jersey game, there was a big clump of Newcastle United fans behind that one goal, and that's what we all assumed was going to happen, but that never did. That was the only disappointment, really. But, you know, hey-ho, it is what it was. But it was a fantastic experience for the whole family, to be honest. And, yeah, so hopefully get to do it again, hopefully on the Cathedral on the Hill soon.
Yeah,
that's
great stuff.
the next thing, so.
Kevin, can I just say, Kevin, watching your pictures and watching how your kids enjoy that's part of the highlights of the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, for somebody who started when he was 4-year-old in 1945, to see those Bens enjoying that, Kevin.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that. That was as much of the highlight for me.
Yeah, well, I took a football along and just random people were kicking the ball about with my kids and stuff like that. You know, like when I remember that memory going down to where was it? Cardiff Stadium, when we got slapped off Man United and there was a football being kicked about, and you know, but that's what we do. So it was just great all the way around. Just a very long day.
I've seen on another YouTube black and white banter getting interviewed. It was good to see your kids and your proudest punch.
Oh yeah,
Keegan there.
Yeah.
I watched that one.
Fantastic.
Great to see.
Fantastic.
Just your smile on your face. It was just great.
Well, yeah, it's just a big buzz for me as a dad to see him.
Good to see
do
you.
that.
I mean, like, good to see your kids being dead smiling. Great to see, mate.
And, yeah, and I think it's been across the whole three cities. I think that's what the whole atmosphere has been like across the whole three of them. So it's been a very successful tour.
Great stuff. Okay, Ian, back to the original question. The back four, happy with that going into the season?
Yeah, I'm happy with it if that's what we're going with. But I think as from what... Oh, sorry for being late, by the way. I was just...
It's all right, mate. It's okay.
Yeah, so... I'm happy because the back four are solid when they play together. I'm worried, as Kev said, potentially about Cher being not being fit or playing half fit. And I also, as I was worried last season, do worry about a lack of pace in the back four. You know, although I would be happy going into the season with it, I do think, as I've said a lot of times, Dan Burns' best position isn't left back. He's done, admirably for us there. He was absolutely amazing last season. But I think that this season's a new season where towards the end of last season, we were getting found out a little bit, or not getting found out as much as people targeting Dan. So although he did actually amazing at the end of the season, he was getting targeted a lot. I do think we need a new left back, and I definitely think we do now. Looking at Charles' situation, need cover at right centre back. Although I wouldn't be overly bothered if that cover was Dan Burn. Even though, yes, he's left-footed, how many two centre-backs have we seen that have both played with a right foot? You know, it's not the worst situation to have Dan Burn going in next to Botman for me, although it's not ideal. So, yeah, I do think we do need... That's the area now that we really do need to look at and adding bodies to. But if we didn't, I wouldn't be crying about it because they did amazing last season. And we've got to remember as well, this season, expectations... are high with some fans, but I think most level-headed fans know, certainly if we don't sign a few more players, that there's a lot of games there, and it's going to be a long season. So maybe top 5, top 6 is a really good season for me.
Okay, sensible points there. Donald, what's your take on this back four? Would you be happy to go into January?
Yeah,
wait till the window, I guess, or are you a bit like Ian and a few of the lads?
I mean, there's still 4 or 5 weeks left of the window, so that's long enough to bring another body in. I mean, as everybody has just said, our existing back four has got chemistry. They understand each other. The almost like telepathic, aren't they? They know what each other's doing. One thing I'd like to pray for: please don't play a back three, because with the existing defenders we got, back three is no good for us. Back three is our Achilles heel. And as a left back situation, yes, we do need somebody in who can, motor, because having Dan Burn back, he did great for us, don't get us wrong, but other teams, if Dan Burn continues at left back, other teams will target that for his lack of pace. So we do need a speedster at left back, somebody who can match opposing, pacey forwards stride for stride. Because if somebody gets a run on Dan Burn, then, it is curtains. But other than that, if we don't get anybody in, which I know we will, then I'd be happy with starting with that back four.
Okay, good stuff. Next question I've got for the panel tonight is Bruno and this contract. Is this a bit of a concern, George, or do you think this is going to get sorted out? Because obviously when a player gets interviewed about his contract, he might say something which can be misinterpreted. And I personally think that's what's happened here, forcing Eddie Howe into questions that he had to answer about, the contract. But I'm not too concerned. He's tied to the club for a decent amount of time. And, I think this will get done and dusted quite soon, George.
So do I. Hope so. And I think it will. But the other bit of it is you got good players. Other teams are going to envy them, aren't they? No, other teams are going to try their best to drag them away as hard as they can, as fast as they can. And that's what we've got to live with. I do think this is a bit of a press story more than anything. But clearly Bruno must have said something that alerted all of that. Or has his agent said it?
Bruno said he was slightly he was concerned. I mean, it was the word concerned, which I think created the story, Well,
I think it's... I hope it's a storm in a teacup, but if we're going to be flying high and we've got these players, we've got to expect that others will envy them and they'll be sticking things under their noses and under their agents' noses. But if you look at Bruno and everything he says and everything he does with his family in this part of the world, that's not a lad that's looking to go anywhere, I don't think. I really don't. So it is a concern, but I don't think it's a real one. I think it's part manufactured, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Spenny, who often is on the panel, couldn't make it tonight, but he did know we were going to be talking about this. And he feels that Bruno's contract might be done this week, maybe even, as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. So, from his perspective, that's his opinion. But, if not, like me, he said, he's not too concerned. He's still got 4 years on his contract. Darren, is this just a bit of a press story just to get a few column inches? I think it was Craig Hope who ran with it, but he was entitled to, because Bruno used the word concerned.
He's probably put a bit of story to sell papers or something, or something to read to get people talking about. He had the end of the season, holidays. He's got married pre-season. He's not even in the country, and what Ashworth has been busy. He needs a bit of time. Get back to UK. Back to UK this week sometime. Can get it sorted. It's just I think it's nothing. I'm not concerned. He's got 3.5 years left on his contract, or so we have plenty of time to a new contract.
Yeah, Barry. I mean, it's the one player that's made us tick since he came to the club. He's the talisman. Darren's right. He loves the area, and he's certainly not looking to leave. I can imagine if Newcastle went on a couple of seasons without qualifying for Champions League, I think there might be something a little bit more to be concerned about.
Yeah, Bruno's one of the first ones to buy into the whole project. He said himself, he's talked about it. His family look invested in the area. I love the stuff where you're seeing with his dad, who his dad's over visiting, and he gets the whole process. I mean, at the end of the day, exactly what you say, Steve. He's the prime player of the whole side. I mean, he is what makes us tick. I think he's right as well. What you said yesterday, that it's weird with the club of the size of Newcastle. That basically it sounds as though they've took their entire staff over to the USABA, and there's a ghost ship at St James's taking the place over, and you think, hang on, surely there's somebody in the background doing stuff. So you hope that there's things with the contracts is going to be something along those lines. Like you say, they'll come back from America, they'll get down to what they should be doing and organising other things. I think Bruno, he's the one player who would, if you wanted more money, you'd push the wage bill up, because he is top dollar in the team. I think you're right. I think if he doesn't see that improvement, he's got every right to say, look, I'm wanting more than this. But I think he'll give us the time to do it. There's a lot of Brazilians who are just there for the money, just there to get on. I don't get that with Bruno. I think the guy's absolute class. I think he just probably wants what he's worth, which I think he is worth a new contract, because he is the star player amongst the team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Kev, anything to be worried about with Bruno?
No, just sooner rather than later. Like most of us have said, he loves being in the city, around it. Family are settled. He's settled. Again, it's just journalists being journalists and creating column inches so people can read it and we can talk about it, essentially, and create that debate, which essentially is what their job is. But no, I think, but he has come out previously. He said Real Madrid coming in for him and stuff like that's a dream move for him. Excuse me. Which, look, that's fair enough, but that time's not now. It's with us, and I think we'll tie him down again. Like Barry said, half the staff in the stadium's over here at the minute. So, which is a bit of a surprise. And I've seen 99% of the staff that were now floating around the training thing. Which is a little bit odd, but again, we've got a 6-7 hour flight. I'm sure there'll be a conversation or two on that flight on the way home if they wanted to. They could do it there and then, so we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see when they get, obviously, back into the UK when the show goes out, and we'll see what happens. But again, no, not really worried about it. He's got 3 big years left, whatever it is, and we'll tie him down. It's just going to take a bit of time, and just be patient about it as always. Trust the process.
Yeah. Ian, I think when Bruno signed, the narrative was already being spun by some journalists that if Real Madrid come calling, Bruno will be away. So this is a story that's been with us since, since he signed. Yeah.
He's obviously not going anywhere. And I'm a bit out of the loop, actually, to be honest, because I've been that busy all weekend and last week that I haven't actually seen this story, to be fair. So, I should have done a bit more reading, but as far as I'm concerned, unless I see Bruno say that himself, whether he has or not, fill us in. I don't know.
He did. I mean, it was a direct quote, and that's why Craig Holt ran with it, because he did use, he was asked about the new contract, and because he used that word concerned. Then Craig then followed it up with a fairly big story, it has to be said, and it did cause a little bit of a stir on social media. Eddie Howe replied by saying, "Would love Bruno to stay at Newcastle." I'm saying the word concerned. He used the word doubt over his contract situation, and that was when he was interviewed across in the USA. So yeah, it's a strange one. It's a strange one. But yeah, that kind of thing does fan the flames, and it's up to the media department and up to Eddie Howe, I guess, to nip that in the bud, which Eddie did.
And we've got to remember, this is his. If he said that directly, which from what you said he has done, he could be using words like slightly out of context because he's only just learning the language. There's a lot of things that could be misinterpreted, although he has done very well with his English. But anyway, the upshot is he's not going anywhere. They'll sort the contracts out. I very much doubt that anybody in the current team now would be kicking off if Bruno got a bumper contract and asking theirs to be on a par with it, because they'd be having a bit of a laugh if they did. He is, for me, he's the heartbeat of the team. Obviously Trippier as well, but with Tripp's age, I doubt he'll have a contract that stays on the same wage as anybody else as long as he plays in the team. I very much doubt that, But yeah, I'm not worried at all. I think it is something we need to sort out, and sooner rather than later. If he does sign in the next week, I think that'll be a massive boost to the team going into the season, and if it was this week before the Cellar Cup started, that'd be great. You know, he's the heartbeat of the team for me, and we do need to tie him down and get it sorted, because then he can focus on what's important, and that's playing football, not worrying about a contract.
Okay, Donald, your views on the Bruno non-story? I think we've all more or less agreed on.
I'd just like to add, God, there's some tabloid tosh written about us, isn't there? Eh?
There is.
Absolute tabloid tosh. As far as Bruno's concerned, I think it'll get, as all the lads have said, I think within the next couple of weeks, it'll get sorted, because Bruno is key to our team. I mean, I haven't seen a midfielder like that since probably Andrea Pirlo for Italy. That guy can pass a ball, and you know, and his range of passing as well is something else. So you know, I think there's nothing to be worried about. We need him for the Champions League. He'll want to showcase his talent on the biggest stage. It's going to get done. So you know, in the bin with that story, I would say. That's what I want to say.
In the bin, says Donald, in the bin. Okay, we're halfway through the show. Time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's. Sauces handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm, and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours, and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com, and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, and click share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com. Okay, at the weekend, we saw 27 years since this moment. Alan Shearer signing for Newcastle United, just a sheet metal worker's son from Newcastle. £50 million was a world record fee at the time, and I don't think many of us will forget that day that he came out the back of the Leazes stand. Alan Robson, of course, standing next to a couple of big bottles of brown ale, and announced him to the waiting masses. And it was a drizzly day that day, but it was a day that we'll never forget. And Alan Shearer, of course, went on to break the late, great Jackie Milburn's record, and still remains the Premier League's all-time top scorer. Although, as I always mention, not the league's top scorer, because that honour is Jimmy Greaves. Anyway, George, I did ask you guys before you came on today, give us your favourite Alan Shearer memory.
Favourite Alan Shearer memory? It's got to be one of his great goals, and he had so many. But the one I like particularly was the volley. I think was it against Everton, out of nowhere. It just dropped down out the sky. Most players would have put that in rose head, but he watched it right onto his boot and put his boot right through it. No goalkeeper in the world was going to stop that. And if I was taking a video to show a young kid how to prepare for looking at the ball, keeping your eye on the ball, that's probably one I would use. So that's my favourite, Steve.
All right, Darren, same question to you. Favourite Alan Shearer moment in black and white?
It's so many because seeing his goal at St James, but to me, it's got to be his first goal, free kick in the John Hall stand. This is like unbelievable. Geordie, top corner free kick. It's just a proud moment being a Geordie senior, number 9 score on his home debut at St James's Park. You know, like his first goal, unbelievable. I think was it Wimbledon?
Wimbledon, yeah, it was a free kick.
Yeah. So that one, and it was close to Peter against Villa when he scored against Aston Villa. When Peter Schmeichel left there standing, like how he side foot in the top corner. So that was the contender, but his first one for me.
Okay, Barry.
Mine's a weird one because I think of Alan as not just, he was almost like a master tactician. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had that side to his game where he used the mentality. And when we talked about this, I looked back at a few highlights. And Steve, I love the bit with Roy Keane, where Roy Keane gets sent off, and Shearer runs into the corner. Keane's nipping at him. The ball goes out, and Roy Keane bounces the ball off Shearer's head, and Shearer turns, and he obviously, I've tried desperately to find out what Shearer said to him. Shearer in an interview said, "Yes, I said something to him," and then Roy Keane lost the plot and took a swing at us. And all the time,
the second word was off.
I think the third word was short ass.
Shearer's whole look on his face, he's just like, and the Man U squad are like dragging him away, and it looks like it's Beckham who gets in front of Roy Keane and drags him off. And I thought, I wonder what happened afterwards. And again, I looked, and it said Keane waited in the tunnel for Shearer coming off. And it said something along the lines of blah, 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 blah. They got separated and they got dragged in the change rooms. And then I read this byline from Craig Bellamy saying something along the lines of Shearer waited, didn't he? He waited until he was last one off the pitch so he could have a gun at him. He didn't go down first. I just thought, just Shearer's mentality of he knew how to play the game. He knew how to wind him up. He knew when to do it. And just the guy was class all round, an unbelievable goal scorer, but just, yeah, there's not many like Big Al. I think he's just absolute class.
No, definitely. Great memory. Kevin, favourite Shearer memory?
I've got plenty. I wrote lots down just when everybody was talking. I mean, I'll go opposite of Darren, and had the pleasure of witnessing. It was an unfortunate thing for him, but it was his last goal, and it was at Sunderland 4-1. And I was there, and that seemed one of the all-time greats of the Premier League do that. Unfortunately, with an injury and all the rest of it. But then you go on. It was testimonial night. I was actually working, and I cried, and because of just the immense occasion of it all. So pretty much every goal he scored for us, because he's one of our own essentially, and every time he put the ball on the back of the net, it's always a great highlight when one of our own score. So yeah, those are plus the Villa goal, plus the Everton goal, the one when he rolled Desai and put it into the top corner against them. So there's handfuls and handfuls of moments and memories. I forgot about the Roy Keane one, actually, Barry. That was a good point. I completely forgot about it, which was brilliant. But yeah, so I'll go for his last one especially against that loss from down the road. I think that's always going to stick in my mind. Okay.
Same question to you, Ian.
Barry stole my thunder like me and Tommy were talking about it before. That's why I was late. I was just dropping Tommy off. We were going through a few things, and obviously a lot of it, he's only 12, 13 next week, but we watch a lot of the old highlights back, and he loves Shearer and that. And I said the volley first of all, obviously, like George, and Tommy went, it's got to be Roy Keane. One of the funniest things, we watched it loads of times and that, and again, it's just one of them where it's like that iconic moment where he was completely in control, a complete professional, and And Roy Keane, he was a hell of a player and he was a professional, but he you know, in that sense, he couldn't control himself, and Shearer knew that, and he got him sent off, and it was absolutely brilliant. I'd have loved to, if they had a fight anyway, Shearer would bounce him all around that tunnel because he's a right little short ass, isn't he? Just a gobby little bugger like for me. But anyway, no, that was my favourite, and like George, I love the volley as well, obviously. But yeah, there's, you know, as Kevin said, there's loads of good memories there.
Yeah, loads of good memories, 100%. Spenny's as well. He sent one in there by Twitter, just saying from his perspective, it was the Sunderland penalty as well. The last goal he scored, it was the ultimate payback. Donald, what about you?
Obviously all the goals. I mean, you know, there's lots to choose from, but I'm going to go with the 2 assists. And basically, first assist being the third goal against in the Hawaii 5-0, setting up Ferdinand, yeah, and also the equaliser in the FA Cup semi-final 2000, the cross for Robbie Lee, and I think that showed Shearer that it's not that there was more to his game than just putting it in the back of the net. That, you know, he was one hell of a crosser of the ball as well. He put the crosses in better than probably some right wingers even. So, you know, those are my memories of him.
Well, the best goal for me was Aston Villa. That acute angle against Peter Schmeichel will stay with me forever. And I was behind that, and I saw him shape his body up for it and just hit it. That for me was my favourite Shearer goal as a Newcastle United player. I loved the fact that he stuck one on that Leicester reprobate and got away with it.
Yeah,
Neil Lennon.
It was definitely an accident.
Of course it was. And I have 3 personal Alan Shearer moments, which you guys, you know, can't share. Obviously, I can put the photos in. The first one was this: my very first meeting with Alan Shearer when he was a player at Newcastle. They interviewed him for the fanzine, which of course in those days was called the Number 9. There's the old reception. I went to meet him and did an interview. It's on the channel. You'll be able to find it out there. We both look a bit younger there, that's for certain.
I was going to say, were you the mascot then, Steve?
I look like the mascot, yeah. I've been very lucky to help Alan raise money for the Alan Shearer Foundation. This was probably one of the proudest moments in my life, handing over Alan a £53,000 cheque for the Alan Shearer Centre when we did the Legends game up at Kingston Park. The target we set was 50,000. We managed to hit 53. So that was a proud moment. And I've had many proud moments with Alan on the stage. This one was the best one, though. The Tyne Theatre we did a few years ago. It was a sellout. And to be able to sit there and actually do the interview, because as most of you know, I tend to promote these events and I'm running around like a blue-arsed fly and can't really enjoy the night. So this one was a bit different. I promoted it and put the event on and got a chance to do the ultimate interview with Alan. So 3 personal moments there for me, 3 enjoyable moments. But Alan Shearer, 27 years ago, signing for Newcastle United. It doesn't seem like 5 minutes ago. Where does the time go? Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Steve, but the other thing about him is, and I'd like Kevin's view on this, is if you were picking a player in the Premiership and you wanted to make a coaching video, who would you pick? And I would always go to Shearer. There's so much about his game. Yes, he's the goal scorer and he's the centre forward, but he's a workhorse. How many times did balls go to the corner flag? The defenders give it up, but bloody Alan Shearer didn't give it up. And we used to get goals from that. When I see forwards now, easing off when they shouldn't be easing off, I think, well, for God's sake, man, you're still in the game. And Shearer epitomises that. Everything about him, there's something in his game you could pick out to show kids what to do and what not to do. And I don't think the club use him as much as they should, actually.
No, he's obviously tied to a very expensive and lucrative contract to BBC's Match of the Day, so I think he's fairly limited to what he can do with Newcastle United at the moment. But who knows? He may well do it in the future if that contract ends. Okay, Elliot Anderson, last season, a bit part player, but somebody who didn't go out on loan and somebody who essentially is now, had the pre-season of his short career. Probably the best pre-season. He's in the goals. He looks a lot more rounded and is certainly living up to that nickname that he was given by Joey Barton and when he was out on loan, the Geordie Maradona. So George, the question I'm going to ask is, I mean, we've got the Salah Cup to come next weekend. Does Anderson deserve to start the opening fixture?
On everything I've seen pre-season, from the Gateshead match through to the American matches, yes. That lad is saying, it's my turn. And if all these fancy blokes that cost tens of millions, hundreds of millions of pounds want to start, they're going to have to shift me. And I really do think that's where he's at. And he has progressed in lots of ways. Physically, his pace, his strength on the ball, his passing ability. Yes, I would think he deserves to be in that team. And on the basis of everything at the Gateshead match, I know it's only gated. People say it's only gated. We were all over the bloody place, and I was looking for one of the senior players like Richie or somebody like that, or even Trippier to come on and take the game by the scruff of the neck and get back into it. They didn't. Who did? Elliot Anderson. He turned the game upside down in a flash, and he you could see he set about it. So yes, short answer, he should be in the team, Steve. Okay,
Darren.
I would say no. I think Andy Gordon will start against Villa. How he looks. I think he's hungry enough. Andy Gordon. He's won the Euros with under 21s. He's had a good pre-season. What I saw of him, but I don't think Elliot Anderson is not far off. He's got his name on the team on the bench when he's not far off starting. Now ESM is gone. But
yeah, 23 million he went for.
Did he? I feel a bit robbed, but
yeah.
But no, I like Elliot Anderson. He's definitely looking much better. He's built up a bit as well. So he's not far off from the start, but I'll just go Anthony Gordon personally.
Okay, Barry, Elliot Anderson. He's making a big claim, as George says, and the performances have been good. The accuracy with his finishing has been good. The passing's better. He's starting to look a complete player. Is he still going to be a squad player, do you think? And will he start against Villa?
It's hard because I've sat and watched the Brighton game highlights a few times, and he just looks absolutely class. There's moments when, like George says, he just runs the show, and he's done it game after game. My only worry is he going to be another of these players who doesn't have a particular settled position? That he seems
Mr. Versatility.
Yeah, I don't want him to become Steve Watson. I mean, Steve Watson was one of my all-time favourite players, but I think he fell down a bit because he didn't settle into one position. I mean, Anderson can play in Gordon's position. He could play in Barnes' position. He can play in one of the midfield positions, but we've all talked about who the three choices are in midfield. I mean, if you went alone off pre-season form, I would have said Anderson's ahead of Barnes. I would pick Anderson over him. I would agree with Darren. I think Gordon's had a cracking pre-season. His England games would guarantee him a place. I would add Anderson on one side and Gordon on the other. I don't think Barnes has been anything exceptional. He's had a couple of good games, but that's my worry, Steve. He needs to find him the position that's best for him and get him to settle him. I know Eddie Howe likes players to swap backwards and forwards, but we've got so many good attacking players now. I don't want Anderson to miss out because I think he's the future of the club. He's one of the big, huge pluses like Miley who are coming through and could well be in the team for many, many years to come. So I just hope he settles down into one position.
Okay, Kevin, you've seen him in the flesh. He played well in the game that you were at. He played well throughout the summer series. What's your thoughts?
It's a difficult one. It's very difficult because I've seen him. I watched the Gateshead game. I pretty much all pre-season games as much as I possibly can, and agree with George in terms of taking the game by the scruff of the neck, driving all these young lads, even though he's one himself. But he became that man, that senior player at that point when all these fellow scholars came on the pitch against Gateshead. And again, he done the same thing against who did this play? Brighton. And he took the game by the scruff of the neck then with 4 minutes to go and he scores 2 goals. But I think I I'm going to reserve a decision until after the Cellar Cup and see how he fares against the Fiorentinas and the Villarreals of the world, because that's a different type of game. If he continues making those, even from my target said it about Elliot Anderson, the deep number 8 run from a midfield 3, I think he might be able to stake his claim. If he continues the way he's playing, I think he might have a very good shout. It's starting against Villa, but I'm 75% sure that he'll probably start just based on his performance and his work ethic and his desire. Because he won the ball high up against Brighton, which led to a goal. He ran in beyond from the 8 position from a brilliant pass from Murphy and just held off the defenders like if he wasn't there. Had shades of Malcolm McDonald essentially holding that defender off and burying it in the bottom corner. So again, it looks like he's the all-round package. Again, it's just like we've all said, where does he play? But I think he'll play within the middle of the 3, in front of a Bruno or along, an interchange, but not in terms of position. But when we have the ball, when we don't have the ball, is where he's going to have to learn tactically, probably mature a little bit more rather than running around like a headless chicken and trying to control the game. Which, look, as a young kid, I do the same. But I think tactically he's got to develop a little bit more. But I wish I was Eddie Howe. I would probably, again, 75% says that he'll start in some capacity. Don't know where, but it'll be in some capacity after the pre-season he's had.
Yeah, certainly deserves it. Ian, what's your views? I mean, there's so much competition, of course, in our midfield now. It is probably one of the, if not the strongest midfield, I would say, that we've had for a long time, and could be one of the strongest in the Premier League.
I said this, I think, on the previous show. I honestly think our midfield now is as strong as anything in the Premier League, bar maybe City, who've got obviously exceptional players. I think we'll battle with anyone, and I think that's part of it. It is so strong because it's not all. Although we have got brilliant players in there, Bruno, Tonali, etc. Joe. I think for me, I'm going to sort of sit on the fence. Yes, he deserves to start the game without a doubt. He's been one of our best players, if not the best player, certainly in the midfield. He scored 4 goals in 4 games, and he, like George said, he took the game by the scruff of the neck. Certainly in 2 of the games, he basically won the games for us. But who does he play instead of? And if you look at the way Gordon's played, he's got electric pace, and he really, really has come on. And I think it's testament to the fact that I'm so glad he didn't get sent out on loan last season, because it may not have actually happened for him last season on the pitch, but it definitely happened for him on the training pitch, because you can see he's, he was not a skinny kid, but there was not that much to him when he at the start of this time last year. But now, he's absolutely ripped now. When you see him, he's in mint physical form. He's put a load of bulk on, which naturally comes with age anyways. You get older, you get your man strength and that. But yeah, he's really come on, and that's why I'm so glad. Actually, I'm jumping around a bit, but like Louis Miley, or Louis Miley as everybody calls him, I'm going to say Louis though because it's spelled that way. So, I hope the same thing, and I'm sure the same thing will happen. These players are going to gain more from playing with players like Bruno and Tonali and Big Joe and all the excellent players around him, and the coaching from the coaching staff and from Eddie. That's going to bring them on more than playing, championship football for me. I know it's great playing against men, but we train so hard anyway that when you train, it's like playing a full match. I bet the 2 now. So the answer is, I don't actually think he'll start, but I think he deserves to. I think his best position is that the Willock position, slightly in front of the other 2. Making those busting runs forward. For me, and I just think that position is, if Gordon plays on the left, which I think he will, it's going to be Big Joe, Tonali and Bruno in the middle. And I think he's only losing out just because of who else we've got, not because of anything that he's done right or wrong. So, yeah.
I think it'd be Armour on the right.
It's going to be interesting, lads. Honestly, this Villa game, when it comes to that picking the squad, this is what Eddie Howe gets paid for. Thankfully, it's not us.
I think Miggy actually keeps his place on the right, and if not, I think if not, then I'd be surprised anyway. But yeah, no, I'd be. Listen, if he's on the team sheet, I would be absolutely buzzing for him and for us, because I think he's definitely good enough. He's been brilliant.
It's like that Lewis Miley. He did a turn against Brighton the other day. It was like a Maradona turn, and he played a ball. And that, like, if that was like a top class player, we wouldn't hear the last of it. But it was because it's Lewis Miley.
Well, we're not allowed to say. We're not, according to some people on Twitter, you're not allowed to praise Lewis Miley. You'll get, calm down. Stop doing that.
Luckily, Steve, I'm not on Twitter anymore because it's full of knobheads. So
anyway, it's called X. It's called X now. Yeah,
well, I don't have any association to Twitter myself.
Well,
so
I'm not putting anybody, but he does a turn in the middle of the pitch. It was like,
see,
and he passed.
He looks.
The only thing he needs to do is bulk up a bit. I think he'll be a hell of a player in 2-3 years' time.
You will be. Donald, your views on Anderson?
And I like him, and I'm quite chuffed that we've got a local lad that's come through. I mean, it's been a long time since we had a local lad make the grade. Yeah, I mean, who was the last one? Probably Gaza, maybe.
Well, no, Andy Carroll was probably local.
Andy Carroll,
but we haven't had a massive amount of coming through. And
we haven't. But I'm really pleased for him. And one thing, I mean, he definitely deserves, an opportunity to start because, he's young, he's fearless, and he'll play with no fear. I mean, he'll not be, Tyrone Mings and all them won't scare him. I think he'll be up for the challenge. But just alluding to what Barry said earlier, we've got to make sure that he does have a settled position and doesn't become a jack of all trades
and a master of none. What I liked about him in the game the other night was when somebody goes through the back of him, he's straight up and he's at them. And he's not a flaky kind of kid. He's very confident of himself, but he's not arrogant. He's got that fine line. He's going to be a hell of a player, Anderson. Go on, George. Were you going to quickly say something?
I was just going to add that the other thing I've watched is because I have the privilege of knowing his grandfather many years ago. He uses both his feet like his grandfather did. It won't matter. It doesn't matter which side you play. Let Elliot Anderson on. He'll do it. He'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've only got 5 minutes left, so I just want to whiz through one more thing. ASM's gone now. £23 million was the fee we're led to believe. George, what's his legacy? And we've got to keep these answers quite short, so don't go on too long with this one.
God,
what legacy does he leave?
For me, frustration. We had the potential to have one of the best players in the Premiership for many a year, and he did it once in a blue moon. And that's frustrating to me. I love good footballers, but frustration, I'm afraid, is his legacy for me.
Okay, Darren, what legacy's ASM left at St James's Park? What's his?
I'd probably go along with George, to be fair. Frustrating player, and he didn't deliver for me. He had in my eyes, so I'm happy he's gone. You know, I'm not a fan of him.
Yep, so I do. Barry,
unbelievably skillful. Just wish he had a bit more commitment to the club.
Okay, Kevin.
Underwhelming. I thought he was very underwhelming for us as a fan base, and I thought he could have given a little bit more. And just frustration, disappointment, all of those words.
All of the above. Ian.
All of the above. Yeah.
In previous years, when we had nothing and everyone was playing out of position, I thought he was our best player by a country mile, and he probably kept us in the Premier League. So massive admiration for him for those years. Since the takeover, unfortunately, he's been a square peg in a round hole. It just he suits that solo maverick. Give it to Maxi and let him prance around with it, but unfortunately, that doesn't work in the current team and current squad. So yeah, thanks very much, and he's done some amazing things for us. But it's unfortunately, he doesn't fit the system, so he's gone.
And Donald.
A talent, but we didn't see enough of it. Talent was there inside, but didn't see enough of that talent. Enough times.
Yeah. Okay, well, I wish him well as well. At times, at times he was unplayable. I've got to agree with Ian. I think when we were down, he was our best player. I've said it a few times. He reminded me so much of Kieran Dyer. Kieran Dyer looked great in a poor team. looked average in a decent team. And I think that's the same with ASM. For all his faults, at times he was just fascinating to watch, great to watch. He got us out of the seat in the Ashley era, and we'll always be thankful for that. And I think his sentiment was definitely, was from the heart. And I'm sure he'll do well in Saudi. That's been a great night. Thanks to Donald, thanks to Ian, thanks to Kevin, thanks to Barry, thanks to Darren, thanks to George. That is the Fans Forum for this week. We will be back next Monday live at 6 o'clock. But until then, from me, Steve Wraith, it's good night. Take care. And
see you, boys.
Good night, lads.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.